Hi folks, this is Gabe with Security Baron, and the backbone of your smart home is your Wi-Fi network. That's why today we're reviewing a mesh Wi-Fi system with the Google Nest Wi-Fi router and Google Nest Wi-Fi point. In today's review of the Nest Wi-Fi system, we're going to go over some pros and cons, its design, its feature set, the installation, and mobile app experience before wrapping up and answering a few of the most common questions about these devices. To get the full details and more information on how to protect your internet privacy, head over to securitybrand.com. Let's kick off today's review of the Nest Wi-Fi system, going over some pros and cons, beginning with the pros. Now, very simple to install. I probably had both of these devices installed in a matter of minutes. Really easy, and that's always a great starting point. Now, when it comes to the Nest Wi-Fi point and the Nest Wi-Fi router's design, it's beautiful. You get these nice cherubic, circular, round devices. And with the Nest Wi-Fi point, you can actually get beyond the clean white aesthetic of the router and get it in a pale pink or a pale blue. Now, speaking of the Nest Wi-Fi point, it also doubles as a Google Assistant powered smart speaker. So I can play music, I can ask it the weather, I can do a host of things that you would basically conceive of as like a Nest Wi-Fi mini right here with this Nest Wi-Fi point. Finally, you're just going to get exceptional performance from the router and the point when it comes to the speed of your internet. Now, on the flip side, when we're talking about cons, it is a bit of a closed system with the Nest Wi-Fi router and the Nest Wi-Fi point. If you're used to some pretty advanced customization features, you're not going to get that with this Wi-Fi router. So that's a look at the pros and cons on the Nest Wi-Fi system. Now that we've gone over some pros and cons with the Nest Wi-Fi system, let's talk about its design. Now, it has a cylindrical design, a clean white aesthetic, which is the only option for the Nest Wi-Fi router. However, with the Nest Wi-Fi point, you get that clean white aesthetic, but you also can get this in what is called a mist and a sand, which is going to be a pink and a pale blue color. Now, on the Nest Wi-Fi router, if you look, it looks pretty solid. You have the Google logo at the top to let you know who's making it. You have the QR code for the installation process on the bottom, along with a few tech specs, and you have your Ethernet port connecting to the internet, and you have one Ethernet out port, along with just your power port and this nice rubberized bottom to have it sit softly on whatever surface you decide to put it. Now, when you're looking at the Nest Wi-Fi point, you have 4 microphones on the top, along with the ability to turn that microphone on and off if you want to be a little more private and not use that Google Assistant element for a bit. You just push it over to one side, and now you know that it is not listening to anything, not listening for that wake word. The bottom has that nice rubberized bottom as well, along with the QR code for installation, and you have your power port. So pretty simple, no Ethernet ports for the record on the Nest Wi-Fi point, which is something some people would like to see. It's something you would see on the earlier Google Mesh points, but not something they decided to include with the Google Nest Wi-Fi point. Finally, I want to talk about the speaker on the bottom perimeter of the Nest Wi-Fi point. It actually provides for a solid sound. It's loud, it's clear. It really adds a lot of functionality to your Nest Wi-Fi point. And one thing I can't forget is to note that we continue to be impressed with the post-consumer recycled plastics that Google is bringing into this new product line. And that's a look at the design on the Nest Wi-Fi system. Well, hold on. I hope you're enjoying today's review of the Nest Wi-Fi router and Nest Wi-Fi point. If you be kept up to date on the newest in smart mesh networks, smart home security, cybersecurity, and more, subscribe to our channel, Security Baron. We're dropping new hot content weekly. All right, let's get back to the video. Now that we've gone over the pros and cons and design for the Nest Wi-Fi system, let's talk about its feature set, beginning with the fact that you have a lot of control inside of the mobile application. You can, of course, block all types of sites. You can pause various devices throughout the day. You can even set up a schedule to say, all right, I want to make sure the kids are not on the internet past a certain time, but I want to make sure I can be on the internet, so you can turn off their individual devices, which is really useful. In terms of prioritizing bandwidth, you can do that. If you decide, we're all playing video games in the living room, we want to make sure that's really fast, we want to turn off, or rather make sure we're getting the most bandwidth, you can do that right there in the app. Just prioritize that bandwidth to whatever device you see fit. And speaking of moving around your home, you can do so, and it's going to jump and skip effortlessly, seamlessly between the different routers and Wi-Fi points in your home. But you know, it actually gets pretty impressive coverage. You're going to look at 3,800 square feet with the Nest Wi-Fi router and the Nest Wi-Fi point. And each point that you add is going to add another 1,600 square feet of range. Now, they're going to be speaking to each other using 2.4 and 5 gigahertz dual band connection. So that's how your devices connect, and that's how they actually connect to one another. And with that, you're also getting that WPA3 encryption with automatic security updates to make sure that you're staying secure on your home's network. So that's the look at the feature set on the Nest Wi-Fi system. Now that we've gone over the feature set, let's go over the sound quality on the Google Nest Wi-Fi point. Hey Google, play Oceans by Vallis Alps.
Sure, Oceans by Vallis Alps. Here it is on Spotify.
Hey Google, stop music. So now I want to put the Google Nest Wi-Fi point up against the Google Nest Wi-Fi Mini. Now, just to be clear, I have both these devices at 50% volume. Hey Google, play Oceans by Vallis Alps.
Oceans by Vallis Alps, sure. Playing on Spotify.
Hey Google, turn off music. Hey Google, play Oceans by Vallis Alps.
Sure, Oceans by Vallis Alps. Here it is on Spotify.
Hey Google, turn off music. So that's us testing the sound quality on the Google Nest Wi-Fi point. Now that we've tested the sound quality, let's jump into the installation with the Google Nest Wi-Fi. Now, the first element of doing the Google Nest Wi-Fi installation is that it's a little bit confusing because you might initially jump into the Google Nest Wi-Fi app or the Google Wi-Fi app, but you'll then realize that that's not exactly where you begin the setup process. You actually need to continue that setup in the Google Home app. So where you would previously have done it in the Google Wi-Fi app, you now have to go into Google Home. So I think that's a little bit confusing and something to note that I wish were not the case. So from there, we're gonna jump into the Google Home app. And here, it's a pretty straightforward process. It'll ask you to choose a home, you choose your home, and then it'll have your location, and then you'll begin looking for devices. Now, once it begins looking for devices, your Google Nest Wi-Fi should pop up, and it'll just say Nest Wi-Fi router. And then it'll say, either you're creating a new network or you can add to an existing network if you're like me and already had the Google Mesh Wi-Fi. However, I wanted to make a completely new Wi-Fi network, so I just chose new network. Then you give that app permission to scan the QR code, and then you'll see I say okay, and I can scan the QR code on my device. And then it says Google Home wants to join the network, and you begin the connection to the Wi-Fi. From there, once you actually get into the Wi-Fi, you set up a name. I called it Security Nest. You come up with your password, and from the password, it asks you, do you want to turn on your Wi-Fi router and point usage stats? You can turn on your Nest Wi-Fi cloud services if you like, and you can tell your app where this device is located. So we put office, so then you create your Wi-Fi network, saving your Wi-Fi settings, and this takes a little bit of time. And then once that is finished, it will ask you, can it join the Wi-Fi network that you've just created? And then you'll connect to that Wi-Fi and you'll get that connected symbol. But pretty straightforward, super simple setup once you actually get into the right app, and of course you plug it into the right locations in terms of your Ethernet, and then you can jump into your Nest Wi-Fi point setup. So now that we've set up the Nest Wi-Fi router, let's jump into the Nest Wi-Fi point. Now, if you're anything like us, we bought a multi-pack and it actually knows that. So it actually says, looks like you have a 2-pack setting up multiple devices. And yeah, we are setting up multiple devices. And now it tells you to place your next Wi-Fi point, and they should put it not too far away from your Nest Wi-Fi router. Now, one thing to note here is that there is a physical installation of the Nest Wi-Fi point as well. You're going to want to just plug it in. This one doesn't require you to have any Ethernet port, but you do want to make sure there's a nice power plug. And you also want to ensure that you are doing a good job in terms of making sure it's not too far away from the router and not too far away from where you can actually talk to it, because remember, this is a Google Assistant powered device. So ultimately, really easy setup and installation for both the Nest Wi-Fi router and the Nest Wi-Fi point, as long as you're in the right application, the Google Home app. Now that we've used the Google Home app to set up our Nest Wi-Fi router and Nest Wi-Fi point, let's look in the Google Wi-Fi app on how to control various elements of our router and point. Now you'll note right off the bat, we're in the internet section of the Google Wi-Fi app. It says internet, it has 2 Wi-Fi points, and you'll note it has primary Wi-Fi point and mesh Wi-Fi point. The primary Wi-Fi point is where we basically have our router, and other, or DIN, is where we have our Nest Wi-Fi point. Now I can test it directly here. I can go into settings. I can restart them, factory reset. I can add more Wi-Fi points. I can go and look at the various devices, which is also pretty fun to look at. We have an iPhone, my Chromebook, another iPhone, a couple of laptops, an iMac, and an unnamed device. Now, if I go to the left, this shows us everything that's going on inside of the point. So it says everything looks good, 2 Wi-Fi points are online. Our most recent download speed test was 694 Mbps, and that's blazing fast. And look, now I can look at the past 30 days. I can look at all the different download averages and upload averages I was getting, and that's really useful. If I go back, I can look at the info. I can do a network check, which is going to check my internet speed, testing the various elements, and the internet speed is complete. So it says this is usually fast enough to stream 4K video. You know, like the Security Baron videos, 4K is our style. And we have 808 megabytes per second download and 244 Mbps for upload. So let's go ahead and go into our groups. Now this is a really fun element of the app because this is where you really see the depth of what the Google Nest Wi-Fi system is capable of. So of course we have a network check, we have our settings, family Wi-Fi, guest Wi-Fi, home control, priority device. So maybe you have an Xbox at home like I do, or maybe you're a PlayStation person, which maybe I will become one day. And I go to priority device, and I can decide here what devices are for sure going to get the fastest speeds. So if I tap on my iPhone, it will be prioritized for the next hour. And you can change that time. You can make it 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever you like. I can go and make my Chromebook, and it will replace it. Now this is prioritized for the next hour. So I can ensure that I'm getting the fastest speeds. So if I'm at home and I want to play some Xbox or play Nintendo Switch or something, I want to make sure I'm getting the fastest speeds, I will definitely prioritize those devices, and then I'll just hit save. And voila, now that device is prioritized. Now I can actually do more. If I go into family Wi-Fi, I can say goodbye to online distractions. I can schedule a regular pause for my kids, which is pretty fun. I don't have any kids, but I imagine my kids will probably love the internet more than most kids. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to setup, and here you just group devices by labels. So you say kids, or I could put my own name, or I could put Security Baron. Let's go ahead and create one. So let's say kids here, and let's put all the iPhones and the Chromebooks under kids. Now, continue with that, and now I can restrict it so that Google Safe Search is on to help protect them from seeing any sites that are a little bit unseemly or the like. And I can even schedule pauses. So if I want to ensure that no one is going to be like on the internet past 11, I can just say 11 p.m. kids, and that starts at 11. So 11 p.m. and it ends at, let's say, 6 a.m. Boom. Every single day of the week, or let's just say school night, that's nicer. And now at this point, none of the kids will be able to be on the internet between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. on school nights. So I really like how easy Google Nest Wi-Fi and the Google Wi-Fi app has made it to make these types of rules. So now I can label different things. I can label computers. I can label devices. I can make things a priority. I can even set up guest Wi-Fi. So if I want to set up a guest Wi-Fi, I could say Security Nest Guest, and the password is Security Barometer. And now you're all set up. So that's a look at interfacing with the robust feature set that the Google Wi-Fi brings. Now that we've looked at the installation and mobile app experience with Nest Wi-Fi, let's answer some common questions. First, does the Nest Wi-Fi router or Nest Wi-Fi point come with Ethernet ports? And the Nest Wi-Fi router does have 2 Ethernet ports, 2 gigabit Ethernet ports at that. However, the Nest Wi-Fi point does not have any Ethernet ports. Second, does the Nest Wi-Fi support Wi-Fi 6? And unfortunately, it does not. The Nest Wi-Fi system only supports Wi-Fi 5. Now, I know that Wi-Fi 6 is pretty new. It has higher speeds, less latency, and it can handle a higher number of devices. However, the Nest Wi-Fi just supports Wi-Fi 5. Finally, our third question is, does the Nest Wi-Fi integrate with your Google Mesh system? And yes, it does. You can mix and match your Google Mesh Wi-Fi system and your Nest Wi-Fi points, and they'll work and integrate well. So those are the answers to some of the common questions about the Google Nest Wi-Fi. All right, we reached the end of our journey with the Nest Wi-Fi router and the Nest Wi-Fi point, and we wanted to just go over a few of the more crucial elements, like the fact that it's lightning fast. We were impressed with the performance of these devices, even under heavy use. And we can't ignore the fact that they're both smart and multifunctional. The Nest Wi-Fi point not only comes powered with Google Assistant, but is able to be used like a Nest Mini. You can play music, you can answer questions that you have. Just a really impressive, multifunctional, smart device. And it's expandable. This system alone is 3,800 square feet, but say you have another kid, get a promotion, move into a bigger house. Well, you just add another Nest Wi-Fi point and you get another 1,600 square feet of coverage. The Nest Wi-Fi router and point are for anyone who just wants to plug and play their Wi-Fi system and easily and intuitively manage their home's network. So that concludes our review of the Nest Wi-Fi router and Nest Wi-Fi point. If you appreciated today's video, give us a like and hit that subscribe button. As always, this is Gabe with Security Baron. Be secure.